Things to deal with today. I'm kind of a weather dork, so we'll start we'll start with that again. Humidity creeping back in here. Heat advisories this afternoon. It's not going to be as sweltering as we dealt with Monday, and I did see some validation on something we saw with the computer models a few days ago that we could be getting a nicer, I guess you would call it a blast of air toward the end of the month. Should be right on time for September. Maybe it'll just take hold and we can skip all the way to October, but let's keep our fingers crossed that those models turn into forecasts, but at least a few of them are showing a pattern change, which we could use. But it's pretty warm out there today. The morning was nice, but we're still in the middle of summer. All right. I guess I'm going to start with one of the more positive stories today because I find all this fascinating. We had a breakthrough with Canada. Let's talk about that. I've got a lot of positive news today. Don't we need it sometimes? And this is not, make good, feel good stuff. These are really good indicators in a bunch of areas that should be good for all of us. So let's start with the Canadian story. Apparently, we're about to slap Canada with some additional tariffs. Canada tried to play this tough guy act, and it fell apart on them. They're soon to have a vote in the province of Alberta. Alberta wants to secede from the country. I don't know if they want to be independent or try to attach themselves to the United States, which they're already attached to our border. But so Canada's got some issues going on. But Trump had a breakthrough. His team, a negotiating team, had a breakthrough, and they've canceled putting the tariffs on the Canadian goods. And apparently what they've worked out are all positive things for our economy. First up, the Keystone Pipeline. And y'all remember how that deal went. It was underway, and Biden comes in on the first day because these were these green freaks that were hyping up alarm over this phony climate change nonsense and attacking the oil and gas industry. So one of the first things they did on day one of the potato heads administration was kill the Keystone Pipeline. Just kill it dead cold. All the people that were working on it, they just killed it. I had a call a few weeks ago, actually a couple months ago maybe, asking what's the latest on the Keystone. We had hoped we could get that revived, but it was once they killed it, it almost destroyed the whole project. And of course, the Canadian side wasn't being helpful as well. So Trump's been in there. He's close to 2 years now. And what they've negotiated is to restart the Keystone. The Keystone, as you know, would bring some of the oil production from the oil producing regions of Canada down to the Gulf Coast, connecting into other pipelines so that we can refine more oil. So again, while we're still working on this oil situation with the Strait of Hormuz and Iran and all that, and we've got good news on that front today too, future expansion and the restart of that line and the flow of more oil in our own hemisphere. You throw in that Venezuela is now starting to come online. All that's going to be helpful. The question is, will it be soon enough for hand-wringing Americans that are worried about the price of fuel and whether or not that will affect the elections? Now, let's talk more about that. Many of you know I use a lot of diesel. I've got several of my engines are diesel. I've got one or two gas cars. I got a tractor. I got an RV. I got a truck that burns diesel. So I'm always paying attention to the diesel price. And the last day, diesel jumped 40 cents. I mean, it's almost a 10% jump. And what concerns you about diesel is that it's an industrial fuel. It is a fuel that, of course, us consumers can use in our regular trucks and cars or whatever. But Americans don't burn as many diesel cars and normal passenger cars. We don't have as many of those on the road here. But it's the fuel of industry. It moves the big trucks. It moves a lot of heavy things. Farmers use it. Of course, I mentioned, having a tractor. Almost every tractor you've ever seen is burning diesel. And when it goes up, everything goes up more immediately because it's part of the pipeline. So what I wondered was, just to dig into it a little bit out of personal curiosity, but maybe it could be something for the show, I thought, why was there just this sudden diesel spike? When oil's up today, just a few cents, it's trending somewhere around, oil in general is trending somewhere around $86. We'd love to get it down around 70 or under. We had gotten it very recently down to around 71, and that eventually starts to translate into better prices for us. But the diesel spike was just, it did not seem analogous with everything else that's going on with fuel. So I dug into it, and it turns out, and then I heard an analyst talking about the same thing, because I guess there have been some industry announcements that caused the spike. But believe it or not, that's good news. I was alarmed by it, and I thought, oh God, no, not more gas hikes and diesel hikes. But it's, if you understand the basics of economics, which, let's be honest, most people don't, because we just don't teach practical things in college. They're too busy teaching you how to hate your ancestors and tear down statues and put on a nipple clamp or whatever the kids learn nowadays in school. And they're social engineering. They haven't got time to teach, math and economics or actual history. So in that vein, in the supply-demand model, we've got this industrial output that's had a huge uptick. And I was just talking to a family member today that's got his ear to the ground with the trucking industry. And he's mentioning that truck transportation is picking back up. For the first time in months, we've got a hiring shortage for truckers. By the way, if you're looking for a good career, there are a lot of folks hiring out there. And it's a good, solid, real work that AI cannot take away for now until they come up with robot trucks. But so we're moving, industries cranking back up. And so the supply, or the demand side, is starting to spike. And that's good news. Again, not immediately, it's down the road. So why hasn't the supply kept up? Then here comes the linchpin. It's back to the idiocy of the potato head Biden administration killing the Keystone Pipeline in their assault for 4 years. And some of this happened during Obama too, when they went after coal and gas and oil. And by the way, the average price for a gallon of gas was way higher under the first term and only term of Joe Biden than it even is now. Trump had the average way down in his first term before COVID hit. But we know why it went up. It went up because of this unease over the Strait of Hormuz. That's it. It's not that the industry is under attack like it was when the Democrats took over. The nasty, insidious thing, let me just take some partisan shots here. I'm no fan of the Republicans these days for a lot of reasons, but the Democrats are out trying to campaign on fuel prices and affordability, and they're the ones that drove it all up with their attacks on fuel itself. What kind of fool would be uncomfortable when you fill up at the gas station, somehow blame the current president and elect a party that by their announced intention want to destroy the industry that puts that gas in the ground at your gas station where you buy it? These people will go back to those policies the minute they get back in power, and foolish people that don't keep up see that somehow as an alternative to high gas prices. Are you serious? Do you know anything? I mean, have you read a book? Do you really think voting for the other party is going to get the gas down? Are you serious? But there are people that can sort of rationalize that to themselves because they're emotionally hurt somewhere deep inside and they lost the ability to think. So the diesel, back to the diesel. I'm sorry, I got squirreled. It's early in the show and I'm full of caffeine. I got things to say. So the supply side is the problem right now with diesel, with the demand spiking because the reinvigoration of industrial transportation and factory starts going up. There was an announcement today where I think it's LG Electronics are bringing 1,700 more jobs to Michigan. We're repatriating industry back to the country, and we're still in that transition. First round is negotiation to get this done, which we saw last year with the tariffs and the tariff wars. Then there are the commitments, and then those commitments have to actually get physically built, and then they start coming out of the ground, and the factories need to be supplied, and so here we go. We're kind of on the early stage of factories starting to be completed, projects starting to be completely dug, not to mention all the data center construction. And we're needing a lot more transportation to get this done. So again, I think I've made the case of the supply side or the demand side and why that went up. But under Biden, we started harassing and taking offline refineries' capability to refine diesel. It's a different refining process. It's a whole nother way of achieving the product without going into the technical details. It's more complicated, and so that has not come back online completely. The hit that portion of the refining industry took has still not been caught up. Granted, it's not even been 2 full years since Trump took back over, and those things do take time. But the refining capacity on diesel has not caught up with the sudden demand. We're kind of outrunning ourselves. We are literally outkicking our coverage right now when it comes to industry. That's the pain of transitioning back to being a productive, more industrial focused nation that builds things for itself again. And if you understand that, and most of you riding down the road right now that are long-term listeners understand that, then, and it's not sunshine. I did this research myself. This isn't somebody's talking point. I get no talking points sent to me, but it makes a lot of sense. So just like with the Iran war, call me weird, but I'm willing to pay a little more if we can get this terrorist threat away from the world, out of the region, and away from the Strait. And I'm willing to pay a little bit more to see this industrial comeback. It always happens whenever there's an uptick. In other words, okay, lumber, for example, has gone through the floor. And it may be held down if we get new Canadian lumber in here with this Canadian deal, that lumber prices have returned to something that seems reasonable. I've been buying a lot of lumber lately, so I've been watching it. But if there's a housing spike, let's just say somehow the Fed got their minds right and decided to lower the interest rates a full point in the next few meetings, there'd be a housing takeoff in this country that would help start regulating things. Well, then what would happen to lumber? Anybody? Class? Bueller? Anybody paying attention? Lumber's going to go up. But that's still good news for the economy because that means housing is starting to happen again until those transportation costs can get regulated. So we're in that zone right now. Industrial output is about to boom in this country, and we've got to find the diesel fuel to fuel it. And we've got to get these refineries caught up to where they need to be to produce that kind of supply for the American industrial base. And so that's kind of where we are. Now let's talk about the Strait of Hormuz. I'll just stitch all this stuff together, then we'll get into some of the other stories of the day. Turns out we're moving a minimum of 30 ships a day through the Strait. There's actually 2 paths that have been created. There's one that people are usually calling the Oman Pass. It's a little more south of the other pass, which runs closer to Iran. And these ships with our Navy escorts are getting through. So the Strait is open. And even CNN had to run a piece, I think it was this morning, I saw the headline on it, admitting that Iran is completely losing control. It's sort of a war of attrition. It's a war of resources and wills. And the United States Navy has put them back in a box. Not that they couldn't pop up this afternoon and sneak a drone out of there and hit some private ship, but our Navy has that situation at hand. Ships are shipping companies are becoming more and more convinced that they can get safe passage with those Navy escorts, and we're still moving ships. That has inspired the Europeans to come along from the Netherlands to Italy, some of the Asian nations. They are currently crafting a pact as I stand here and speak that will eventually let them take over those operations. Not to mention there's been a huge investment in bypassing the strait altogether so Iran just doesn't have this geographical advantage that they've used before. They tried this in the 1980s. Reagan had to do the same thing. We gave military escorts. They didn't have drones and a developed missile program in the 1980s, so they weren't as dangerous with their threats. But we're controlling it. It's not where we want to be, but we're controlling it. It's a good place. It's a good thing to be seeing to happen. So there's a quick sort of economy/fuel update. The markets tend to like the Canadian deal today. They were immediately up. Now just up only about 120, but a green market right now so far today with the way they color code all the stocks, green versus red. One other part of the Canadian deal, and this may be even bigger than the pipeline. The pipeline's just a source of frustrations for a whole industry in most of America because killing it was nonsense. It was pure nonsense. It was vitriolic retribution, utter nonsense, which was pretty much how you describe most of the Biden administration. But now that it's back on track, the other part of that deal is apparently, and I haven't seen it in writing and we haven't seen all the deal points officially be presented, but the reporting on it today is that our farmers are going to be able to sell our American produce and farm products into Canada with no tariffs. Let me repeat that. No tariffs. Before Trump was elected in the second term, it's just a cold, hard fact. our farmers were getting punitively taxed, especially on milk products and beef and things like that. Heavy, heavy taxation when we tried to export to Canada. And so Canada was being very protectionist of its farm products, which kind of are right there next to each other. When you look at Montana and Alberta, it's the same kind of cows, same kind of cattlemen on each side of the border. And so that has been a huge relief for farmers here in the United States. Now they're, of course, they're not even into the harvest season yet. And we're looking at beef shortages and other shortages. But in the future, not to pay those tariffs and to grow their markets over here again in the Western Hemisphere, where they're not dependent on chaotic exports in Asia and other places that can come and go. That is more stable and more neighborly for us to be able to trade with Canada that way. All that is good news. And I got more. I mean, I got a whole list of things that seem to be turning a corner this afternoon. And we'll get into them. We'll take your calls too. 545-9950 is the phone number if you want to get on the show this afternoon. Lania's Furniture Company, first up here with our advertisers today. That's John and Reggie and that whole family, that whole group of people up there at Lania's. This is a wonderful store. I'm getting to go hang out there in a couple of days. We'll do the show live there on Friday. If you live up that way, we'd love for you to pop by. It's always a good time. And what we're doing is just really putting the focus on their Labor Day sale. They've got a tremendous Labor Day sale coming up with discounts all over the store on certain brands, over on the mattress side, because, hey, man, it's Labor Day. Why not? So they've got an incredible, you won't find a better deal on a mattress than at Lanius this whole Labor Day season. And they've got the better brands, lots of them, lots of competing brands side by side right there for you to try out. So, of course, all that. But then generally, they've got this buy more, spend more sale going on, where just functionally, the more you buy, the more you save, the more money you save, as they have their scale of how all that works. They've got this whole chart about how it works, and they'll show it to you as soon as you walk in the door. So look around, find something beautiful for your home, and they'll bring it all the way to you. They'll bring it to your house. This is what they do. It's a wonderful store. Been around almost 93 years. It's taking good care of people and providing the best selection you're going to find anywhere in the state. Almost an acre of furniture in that showroom. It's right there in Kimberly, Alabama. Surprising place for a superstore. Little small town right off the interstate, off I-65. Exit 280. It's LaniasFurnitureCompany.com. LaniasFurnitureCompany.com. Back here in just a minute. All right, y'all, 227. Let's go, man. That one had some energy to it. I like that. I keep hitting my damn microphone. Did you hear that, AJ? I've got this metal, I'm drinking out of a metal coffee mug today to try to keep the coffee warm a little bit longer. I keep banging the microphone. Sorry about that, y'all. Project Lean Nation is one of my favorite new sponsors only because it's so personal to me. And I'm going to try to tell you this backstory as quickly as I can. I'm not a meal prep guy. I'm just not. I'm not a very good planner at all. I'm sort of freestyle all the time. I don't like, drives my wife crazy. And one of my sons is like that. AJ, just take notes, man. So it's total payback. He'll decide he's going to come visit. I never know. I never know what hour. I don't know. He's like when the phone company says they got to come out. He'll give me a 4 hour window. He might show up. One of my boys is just like that. He got it from me. But having said all that, what I've learned with Project Lean Nation is having somebody else do the thinking when you just want to eat healthy and feel better and lose some weight. To me, the weight loss is a byproduct. My two goals were to get all my numbers right, to just get my health right. I'm about longevity. I've turned that corner heading into the fourth quarter of life, and I want to just live longer than some of my ancestors did. So part of that is healthy eating. And so what they've done at Project Lean Nation is created a meal menu and a whole plan that takes the resistance and the thinking and all the calculating calories, all that's out of your life. They just make the food for you. You go pick it up and do your part. You got to burn some calories and get your steps in. But the meals are amazing. I had this Baja beef thing again today. It could be one of my favorites. And I've got another one. I may eat it twice today. It's so good. Y'all, it's Project Lean Nation. They're in Homewood. Y'all got to try this. Hey, there's so many fads and things going on out there. You will never do better and never be healthier than when you just eat right and do the exercise. That's it. That's timeless. Y'all go see them in downtown Homewood, Project Lean Nation. All right, AJ, let's bring it back here quickly. Trump is taking questions at the White House. He's got a bunch of dudes in suits standing around him. I don't know what the original event was about, but he's doing a Q&A with reporters. This could be good. Let's all listen in live.
I mean, literally, while it's up, and it's been for quite a while, you know, except for a couple of little pauses where we opened it purposely with a deal, but the deal didn't terminate. You know, the deal didn't turn out to be what they said. You know, when they tell us one thing and they do another. But the blockade has been 100% successful. No boats have gotten into Iran, but they are getting in for other places. But we'll see. We're going to see what happens. It'll either be extremely good and oil prices are going to drop like a rock, or we'll continue to do exactly what we're doing. You know, they were talking about $350 a barrel, and it's today 84, 85. And we are getting a lot of oil out. But the other thing that's happened is people have found other alternatives, which they never thought about. Texas, Alaska, Louisiana, and other places. In addition, a lot of pipelines, record numbers of pipelines are being built. So I think the Hormuz Strait's not going to be quite as important as it was in the past.
Yeah, on Canada, if I could ask you, you said that there's a deal, an agreement in place. Are you willing to lower tariffs on steel and aluminum?
Well, we're looking at that.
In order to get farmers to get the tariffs lower.
Well, we're getting zero for our farmers. You know, farmers have been hurt very badly by Canada, and they won't be paying any tariffs anymore. And we may bring some of the tariffs down to a level where other countries are, because Canada was paying a higher tariff. Canada was paying us a higher tariff. So we are, look, we have a very nice relationship with leadership right now, and we'll see. But we did a 3-day pause. It was supposed to be a 50% straight across the board tariff that was going into effect at 7 o'clock this morning. And I delayed it at the request of Canada for 3 days so we can iron out the details. But it's going to be a wonderful deal, hopefully a wonderful deal for everybody. Yeah.
Mr. President, earlier today you said North Korea has something like 57 nuclear weapons. They've been expanding their nuclear program. Is your goal in trying to re-engage with Chairman Kim still denuclearization? And what makes you think you could be successful now when you weren't?
Well, I don't want to talk about that, but I do have a good relationship with Kim Jong-un, as you know, you've seen. He didn't like Biden. He didn't like Obama. He didn't like anybody, but he likes me, and I just got along with him very good. We had great meetings. We speak, and I think our nation, and I think other nations, frankly, whether it's Japan or South Korea, they're a lot safer if I'm president than if somebody else is president. Now, I didn't like the fact that we're doing these massive military exercises really against North Korea. It was an exercise against North Korea. When I'm friendly with him, when we have, I don't see anything happening for certainly 2.5 years. It's not going to happen with me. But I don't see anything happening. And I was not happy when South Korea said, no, they're not interested in helping us with the Hormuz Strait, and yet they get 60% of their oil from the Hormuz Strait. I said, would you like to help us? He said, no, thank you. I said, that's nice, please, thank you. He made us a lot of money. I didn't like that. So I felt that to do we were doing a massive war exercise. I thought that was very insulting to somebody that, frankly, has been, during my term at least, very well behaved. Yeah.
On the bond market, is the administration done enough to stabilize the bond market after yesterday?
Well, I think it is, but I mean, it's very sad. Every time we do great, we announce great numbers, the interest rates go up. And they go up because they want to stop inflation. They should go down because the country's strong. You know, I see countries like Switzerland where they're the #1 lowest interest rates, 0.5%, and we pay 3.5%. And yet, if we stop doing business, for instance, I have the absolute right to cut off all business with a country like Switzerland, like anything. So why are they prime if I can cut off the business and they are no longer functional? And yet they're considered to be like an elite country. And I don't want to single them out because there's 60 countries like that. They live off the United States. So why are we paying higher interest rates than them? You know, in the old days, we used to pay the lowest interest rate, no matter how we were doing, because we sort of generate for the whole world. And I want to see it where interest rate, and I have to tell you, we have a wonderful chairman. I think he's doing a great job. The problem is he has a board, and it's a political board. It's people put in by Obama, Biden, and me. And there are quite a few members still left, as you understand. And so they vote to raise interest rates. I don't know if they're doing it because they think they're doing a good thing or because they like the politics of it. But my point is, years ago, 25 years ago, When the country announced good numbers, interest rates went down because we had a stronger country. Now when we announce good numbers, the better they are, the worse it is for interest rates. So we could have a GDP of 10 times. You know, they say, oh, it's going to be 3 times or 4.1. We could have a GDP of 10, 12, 15 times if they just leave us alone. Let the rates go down. We should pay the lowest interest rates. You know, every point of interest is $600 billion. Think of that. Every point of interest is $600 billion. 2 points means we make a fortune, but we keep driving it up. It's a very unfair system, and I've said it now for a long time. When our country does well, interest rates should go down. I mean, every time I hear our country's doing well, I say, oh, it's too bad, because they lift up interest rates. They should drop interest rates because it means we have a strong country, and it's all based on credit, meaning good credit, and we have the best credit, and we'd pay off the debt very easily, very quickly. But if somebody's paying a half a point, we should be paying a half a point, not somebody else. Right now, I think it's Switzerland has the lowest. Again, and I don't want to single them out, but if you take our business away from Switzerland, they have problems. So why are they paying a half a point and we're paying much more than that? Does that make sense to anybody? I mean, it seems pretty simple to me, but it's a killer. You know, I almost like to hear bad numbers. I'm saying, I hope we have bad numbers today. Interest rates will go down. It doesn't make sense. When our business is good, we should lower interest rates. And then you want to build America, you're going to see a building like you've never seen. We're doing great, even despite the fact of what's happening with interest rates.
Should Americans be concerned about this volatility in the bond market?
No, I don't think so, because like I said, our country is doing so well despite interest rates. We have interest rates that are they're actually artificially high. They raise them for no reason. And you can't go out to the market when you have a Fed that's raising interest. You can't say, oh, I want to pay 3 points less than what the Fed says you're supposed to be paying. So, no, I don't think so at all. I think we have a very powerful country, and we're powering through these ridiculous interest rates. They're ridiculous. Look, when our country is strong, interest rates should go down. When our country is weak, frankly, they should go up. But this country is strong. There's never been in history the kind of money coming into a country as we have right now. Trillions and trillions of dollars are being invested in plants, factories, everything. Everything you can think of. We're the hottest country in the world. We are by far, and I said it 100 times, the king of Saudi Arabia, but many, many people, they said 2 years ago, 3 years ago, your country was dead. Now you have the hottest country in the world. That's what we have. We have the hottest country in the world, and these people are helping us a lot. Thank you very much, everybody. Come on to the Oval Office. We're going to take them into the Oval Office.
Let's see if he, tell me if he goes back to it, AJ. Sometimes they pull him back in. Looks like he is finally going exit stage right. Or is that stage left? Why do I feel like Snagglepuss all of a sudden there? You know, he used to say that, exit stage left even. Alabama Dental bringing you the show tonight. I've lost my mind. AlabamaDental.com. Y'all, this is Dr. Brian and his whole team over there. I always call him out because he's my buddy and my personal dentist there. But these dentists are incredible. With 4 in the practice, you're going to get a lot. You're going to get all those specialists that they have in each department. You're going to get the crazy good hours as late as 7 o'clock at night, even on Saturdays. Those guys got together one day and said, why don't we just give the patients a chance to get in here? Sometimes people will just put off going to the dentist because a lot of you don't like going anyway, and then you can't find the time, and that's not good. We got to take care of ourselves, and this is one thing to do. There are direct correlations between dental health and your overall health. I think that has to do with if you got good personal habits, and if you take care of your teeth, you're going to take care of other things. So take care of your teeth and start some good habits at alabamadental.com. All the latest technology, again, as late as 7 o'clock at night and on Saturdays. 4 wonderful dentists. It's a super practice. That's the way I put it. They're great. My dentist for years now. alabamadental.com for your appointment. alabamadental.com. Quick break. We'll be back in a minute and get things back on track. Stay tuned. All right, y'all, 248 Leland Live, talking 99.5. Storm Restoration Roofing next up here on the show. Can't quit talking about what a job Greg did on my place with the home addition that we're doing. It's not a lot of space. It's not a huge project for him for real, but he treated it like he was building Buckingham Palace, man. His crew was all over it. I was really amazed at how quickly they came out Friday after, well, right before I started the show and before I could get home from the radio station. Boom, that roof was on. They had a few more things to tidy up on Saturday, and then they cleaned up after themselves, and I'm almost dried in. I love that. That means things will start moving a lot more quickly too. Greg's just a good guy. They're thorough, they're detailed, they're hands-on. He's got most of his family working in the business. Greg's got 10 kids, man. He was up in, he personally went up to Chattanooga to watch his boys play ball this weekend, which I thought was cool. I saw all his posts, and nothing like proud dad when all that stage of life. But man, if you want your roof done right, this is who you want. You want Storm Restoration. You clearly want the install done properly. And then there's that other component that's almost as difficult as getting all that right. It's dealing with insurance companies if it's a claim. Not that they're that bad, but they are particular. And you've got fine print in your policies. And let's be real, most of us don't read those policies. We don't read our home. Have you read your homeowner's policy? Tell the truth. You haven't. And you probably don't even know what your deductible is. And so suddenly with the storm season, our secondary season coming up, and then who knows what tropical will bring to us this summer, you have a situation, and then you find out you got an $8,000 deductible. What? Or you find out, or, you let some of these fly-by-night folks, this happens a lot. Let me just give you a scenario. Tree hits your house, hail damage, wind damage, whatever. You lose some shingles, water's coming in. You're in a panic because water's coming in. It is the worst feeling ever. And you're trying to put buckets under it and figure it out and get somebody on the phone. It's off hours. That's the craziest scenario. And then miraculously, after a big storm, these crews will just ride through your neighborhood looking for roofing business. And it's real tempting to just reach out and get some help. But in those circumstances, look, there have been some people leave with half your money. There have been some people try to talk you into making an insurance claim just to see if they can hit pay dirt, and the claim was bogus, and then the insurance companies will get sideways with you, and you can't blame them. And you don't know. You're not going up there. Here's the point of all that. Trust your roofer, and have a trusted roofer like Greg Nelson at Storm Restoration. He can deal with the insurance companies. He knows what they'll accept, what they want, how you've got to document it, and get you through that process. They've even got finance companies to help you with those spontaneous deductibles, or even the whole project if it's just time to do a replacement. Here's that number. You need to jot this down somewhere in case you get in that scenario. 205-542-3531, 205-542-3531, Storm Restoration Roofing. All right, let me pivot just a little bit and talk about last night's primary. We didn't, I haven't gone too much into all that stuff this week because it is Florida, and the turnout for the Republicans was the big story yesterday, and that played all the way through the tape yesterday. But Florida has completely, I went through a long analysis of this yesterday based on the 2000 election and how razor thin it was, and it meant one or the other was going to win the presidency in this country between Al Gore and George Bush, and Florida was the difference maker. Florida, it was for years when it came to presidentials, it was either Florida or Ohio. Do y'all remember that? Now it seems both of those have moved away from the Democrat Party in a fierce way, particularly Florida. And so Florida is now a solidly red state. And that was a consequential year for that state. And so have some recent elections. But last night they did one of the dumbest things. AJ, I sent you over some sound. Give me a audio thumbs up when you got that ready. But the Democrats who, listen, despite the fact that they're in a tailspin and they're putting up a bunch of kooks for their nominees, they are still a threat. They're still a threat in this election for two reasons. It's how we arrange congressional districts. They're already drawn in such a way that the two parties have a lock on a vast majority of the districts in the country, and we're only fighting over 19 pieces of pie, man. And some of those districts can do weird stuff because they're districts, not whole states. And with the Senate, it always depends on which states come up in the rotation for Senate elections. And so luckily for the Republicans, Florida's up this time. and they decided to. There's so much to love about this, and I know it's a big setup, but they decided to elect the Democrats nominated for the United States freaking Senate this Nixon woman, who's now their nominee in a what's become a solidly red state. They have put up a Democrat socialist straight nut job. Y'all might remember her. She was the bullhorn lady in the pink outfit that got on the floor of their legislature when they were passing the congressional redistricting with a pink bullhorn. I will give her points for style. That was nice coordination. Yelling at people on the floor. I mean, she's in the body. She has the ability to vote from a chair. She can ask for the microphone at any point, but she pulled this stunt. And by the way, for my both African-American and Democrat listeners, which we have a lot, y'all quit falling for this stuff. This civil rights jive where everybody's angst-ridden and doing sit-ins and fallovers and flopping in the floor. That's dead. That's not serving your community. It's just like when the Republicans get out. They get out a shotgun and a Bible and a flag, and they're best friends with Trump, and Trumpity Trump, and they don't mean it. They don't mean it. She doesn't mean it. This woman's nuts, and she doesn't have a chance of hell of getting elected. But here's how she sounds. They are in this quandary where these crazy people are trying to take over their party, and they won a big one last night with almost no money. This ought to tell you something. In a low turnout Democrat primary race, she was outspent 16-1. So hats off to her for hustling. They got this Vindeman. By the way, he's the villain here. This Vindeman character is the one that was the fake whistleblower during the first Trump impeachment. That was completely contrived. He's this little donut-eating sausage boy that we all made fun of that came to the congressional hearings. Little dweeb, total douche. And he got trounced by this woman. He had $16 million. She didn't even have $1 million. Still beat him. Now she's the nominee. Go Democrat Socialist. I'm proud of this win for y'all. This is what she sounds like out in the wild.
I will not allow you to destroy our democracy. It is a violation of the Constitution. It is. It's a violation of the Constitution. I'm out of order, but y'all are doing illegal.
I know it's hard to hear what she's saying. That's enough of that. My head hurts already. That is migraine inducing. I'll bet you anybody in this audience $100 this woman's never read the Constitution and couldn't cite 3 things in it. $100. People love to pull it out when it's when it's their turn to bitch. But go Florida. And here's the thing: as somebody who has no choice but to vote for these weak-kneed Republicans, I mean, you just don't. Oh God, we just don't have any real choices, and we know they're never really going to do what they say. But at least they're not these crazy people that are trying to ruin everything in the country. So we're sort of stuck voting for them by default. So it does please me that the Democrats keep putting these foolish candidates up. And the Islamic guy in Mission, this Al Sayed guy, they've now connected his mother to terrorism. His mama. That's the worst mama joke ever. This DSA guy who pretends he's not a DSA guy, his mother worked for an organization that funded Osama bin Laden. True story. Look it up. It's all in the news. So I'm happy that they're putting up kooks, and it's giving these weak Republicans a chance to save themselves when they've barely got a base that even wants to vote for them anymore because they've demoralized the whole country with their weakness. But at least it gives them a shot because the other side's committing, they are pulling the pin on their suicide vest right now as we watch them in real time. So good on Florida. That was fun to watch. It was fun to watch Vindeman get his comeuppance. He's an establishment geek, and even the Democrat Party couldn't get this geek across the goal line with substantially more money. And the DSA is clowning these people. Now, they pulled that little switch on the Hong lady in Wisconsin, but I honestly believe they stole that. I honestly believe they did one of their classic ballot dumps. And by the way, for the record, I predicted this yesterday. Didn't take a rocket scientist. You don't need a whole lot of political insight to know that Florida's got its act together when it comes to counting votes. And they counted millions of votes last night in 2 hours before I could get a shower and be done with the day and do some things and eat dinner. We knew who the winners were in Florida. It's not California. They weren't counting for another month like they did out in LA. These people just legitimately let people vote and counted the votes in a secure way and went home, the whole country can do that too. Go Florida. Good stuff. Douglas Cooling and Heating. Let me tell you another story about my project. Jay Douglas came out yesterday, and we had a great meeting. He wanted to see the project on hand, and I got sent by him, and Calvin with his team was with him. By the way, John, shout out to John again for coming out last week. They've got a plan for me for the expansion space, and I've never seen anything so detailed in my entire life as what Jay sent me this morning to review. It was a review of all of the plan diagrams, down to serial numbers and the efficiency of the unit. It's the most thorough thing I've ever seen in construction. This is my company that I've been telling you about for 17 years. It's Douglas Cooling and Heating. They're going to do it correctly. They're going to do it right. They're going to ask you some questions. They're going to make it better. He's even got suggestions for making the rest of the house better. And that's why I've got Douglas out here doing this project. This is the company you want over for your maintenance, for your new installs, for anything you've got going on. It's calldouglas.com. Plumbing, electrical as well. Calldouglas.com. License number 2017181.